Boom. All right, let's do this. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Money Talks. Your host here, Bill Barheit, founder and CEO at Abra. We've got our support team online. We've got our production team here. We've got a lot to talk about. Let's get to it. So a few things I want to just talk about right off the bat. So everyone has gone NFT crazy. So if you're not really paying attention to NFTs and you're interested in crypto, you really need to take a hard look at what's going on in the digital art world, the NFT world, what's happening as it relates to gaming. I think we talked briefly about Bored Apes. I'm going to come back to that. Sotheby's held an incredible auction. I mean, if you were in a time warp from 20 years ago and you heard that Sotheby's had made $25 million selling digital mutant apes, you would think it was some kind of a joke, but this is the new world order, right? So let me start out with just some commentary on what I'm seeing in the broader market. So I'm going to bring up my screen here, my charts. As I always tell you, we don't go deep on technical analysis here, but since some of you do come in and out of cryptos, I think it's important just to give a basic perspective on what I'm seeing. So let me start with Ethereum, and you can see here that on the Ethereum chart, we've had I'm gonna say a nice pullback. I'm using air quotes because some of you would say, well, what's a nice pullback? We want the price to go up every day. Well, first of all, that's not possible. And when markets get oversold, the pullbacks tend to be bigger. When markets get overbought, the pullbacks tend to be bigger. And when markets get oversold, often you see a spike. But here, I don't think we were overbought. And there's a few things going on that are a little conflicting with each other right now, particularly as it relates to Bitcoin and on-chain metrics. But first of all, I think that Ethereum is all the rage right now. It's leading to a halo effect in other layer one protocol tokens, particularly Solana, which I want to talk about in a minute. But like I said, we've seen, let's see, so this is a few days ago, we had a 12%. Today, we're down about 3.5%. So let's say roughly, we're roughly 15% off of the highs on Ethereum. Now, Ethereum today is more volatile than Bitcoin, and partially because it's still earlier than Bitcoin in its adoption cycle. And I think it's going to have more upside, significantly more upside potential than Bitcoin. I think, ironically, Bitcoin is going to be a little bit of a flight to safety in the crypto world. And that's certainly ironic, but we're talking about relative to other cryptocurrencies, not relative to fiat. On the Bitcoin front, we're actually seeing kind of a tale of two cities, a little bit of a conflict going on between kind of exchange-based metrics and what I would call on-chain metrics. And let me explain. So now, obviously, price wins, right? And what the price is telling us, hey, we had a big run up from 30,000 basically to 53,000. And since then, we've had about let's say roughly again, about a 15% pullback. And in Bitcoin terms, that's actually healthy, right? We see these all the time. I've had charts that I've shown you over the last couple of years about the number of pullbacks that you'll see, actually 20 to 30% pullbacks you'll see during a bull run. Now, what's happening right now is actually a little atypical, right? And is super interesting to me for a few reasons. Let me explain. First, there's no denying the pullback here. Big pullback on Tuesday, ironically coincided with the launch of El Salvador's new Bitcoin crypto law, which we'll talk about as well. But what's interesting about what's happening is that the on-chain metrics basically point to a record high supply shock. I've mentioned before that the two people I follow right now most closely who talk about this are Willy Woo and Will Clemente. And if you're not following them on Twitter, again, another shout out, you need to follow them. But basically what they explain is that the amount of Bitcoin leaving exchanges is at an all-time high. The amount of, on a net basis, and the amount of Bitcoin available for long-term holders is actually at an all-time low on a relative basis. And so this is what we call a supply shock. So you might be saying to yourself, well, why is the price going down if we're in this big supply shock? Well, the answer is actually relatively straightforward. The conflict that we're having is between what I would call leverage trading and fundamental metrics. The fundamental metrics are what I just said. There's not enough Bitcoin to go around. More and more people want some. It's creating problems. However, traders still have access to relatively cheap leverage. What is cheap leverage? Let's say you want to make a bet on Bitcoin that the price is going to go up and you want to magnify your bet. Well, you'll borrow more money, buy Bitcoin. So let's say you borrowed enough money to buy effectively the same amount of Bitcoin that you had before, right? You effectively levered yourself. Now, there are futures markets that will do that for you. So you'll actually take a levered position using your existing holdings as collateral. The problem with that is if the price falls too much, your credit is no longer good enough and they're going to sell enough collateral to put you back in compliance. And that's what happens when the market gets over levered. We get these cascading sell-offs where people who don't have enough collateral during small sell-offs ultimately create a cascading effect, which leads to more sell-offs and more sell-offs. And this happens very regularly with Bitcoin, much more so than other assets, because as a commodity, in most places, Bitcoin trading is not regulated, right? Derivatives and futures markets are regulated for Bitcoin in the US, but in most countries, they're actually not. And so this means that you can lever yourself quite easily 5x, 10x, even 20x. If you're levered 20x and Bitcoin falls 5%, you risk losing 100% of your money. And so that's the issue with the conflict between technical trading and the fundamentals that we're currently seeing with Bitcoin, okay? Ultimately, the fundamentals will win because there's simply not enough Bitcoin to go around, which is why I think there's still a really good chance that Bitcoin could go to 100,000 plus this year or soon after. I also think, and I mentioned this last week, that the fundamentals for Bitcoin have changed. And I don't think we're going to see the same pullback that we saw into the halvening cycles that we've seen the last 2 or 3 cycles because of this supply shock. Okay, so very interesting structural changes happening to Bitcoin. And if I'm right on that, we could easily see $250,000 Bitcoin by the end of next year. Now, if you compare that to what's happening with other layer 1 protocols, and let me give you a couple of examples. Now, obviously, we've talked about Cardano. We had Charles on a few weeks ago, which has already turned into one of our most popular episodes ever. Now, Cardano went from $1.02 to effectively $3 about a week ago and has pulled back to $2.40. So that's a healthy pullback, given that you basically had what, a 300+% run over a few weeks, right? So, again, I think Cardano is getting the halo effect that other layer 1 protocols are getting because of the interest in the applications of Ethereum and the fact that the Ethereum network is often saturated. If you don't know what I mean by the network being saturated, for you, it ultimately results in those really high gas fees that you pay to get your transaction done on the network, right? So if you're trying to move $1,000 worth of USDC or TUSD around, then you end up having to pay a gas fee of $50, which is really frustrating. It's because the network is saturated. So that's creating a lot of interest in layer 1 protocols like Solana, which has had the most unbelievable run since the original uptake of Ethereum a few years ago, where it's gone from a low of around 22 in mid-July to 200 plus in the last few weeks, and is now sitting at about 175, which is over a 7x run up, 7x in less than 2 months. Okay, I've never seen anything like it in a protocol token that's of this size. It's surpassed XRP in market cap, and it's going after Cardano and Ethereum. Obviously, it's got a long way to go. But what's really interesting about this is it's not like 2017, where it was a promise. This stuff is being used now. right? Solana is being used now. Ethereum is being used now. I'm sure that with the smart contract launch of Cardano, which I believe is supposed to happen today, you're going to see lots of applications of these things. Okay. Speaking of which, let's turn our attention for a second to some. I'm going to turn the slide share off for a second. Sorry, Mr. Wizard, I didn't give you notice there. But I'm gonna go. Let's talk about Mutant Apes for a second, right? We'd be remiss if we were talking about Ethereum and Solana and Cardano if we didn't talk about Mutant Apes. All right. So these are, for those of you who've never seen them, this is what the Mutant Apes NFTs look like. Now, what's going on here, right? So a couple of weeks ago, the Bored Ape Yacht Club, I forget the website exactly, but it's like BAYC or something.com, or maybe it's boredapeyachtclub.com. It's super interesting, the website, right? Check it out. So they had this auction where they sold 10,000 of these things with different traits, and each one sold for 0.08 Ethereum, right? Do the math, let's say roughly $3,000. That's about $250 per Bored Ape, which when you applied this mutant NFT turned into a mutant ape, which is what you see here on the screen. Now, these things immediately started to resell on different markets like OpenSea and other places. And now the minimum price that you'll see is roughly 40 Ethereum, which is a 500x increase, right? So now Sotheby's, the huge auction house, had an auction where they sold 101 NFTs from this original sale for an average of $240,000 per Bored Ape. Okay, so in the meantime, NFT sales have come down significantly on OpenSea the last couple of weeks. I think a lot of that is just because we reached a peak on Bitcoin and Ethereum and some other altcoins, and a lot of people have been focused on certain altcoin layer 1 run-ups in price and have been moving their attention around a little bit. But there is no denying, right, that NFTs are here to stay. So, I think that I was reading a really interesting take on this by my friends at Galaxy. What they said is that, the strength of these projects shows that, certain collections can hold their value during downturns, like what we were seeing right now. But it could actually provide some kind of, they called it a life raft, if Bitcoin enters another slump, meaning what do I do with my money if I don't want to go back to dollars? Well, art and digital collectibles could be really interesting, right? Not for the faint of heart, but none of this is, right? It's crypto. So again, NFTs are proving to be just another interesting vehicle for speculators to invest. And I'm super interested in it. You may have seen that there were celebrities, Jay-Z, Stephen Curry, who bought one of these apes earlier in August. I guess maybe there was a pre-sale or something. I don't know how it worked, but he managed to get one early. And again, it's creating huge buzz. People with money love to put some of that money into art. And this is the next generation of art, in my opinion. Okay, so I'll spare you I'm going to get rid of this NFT Bored Mutant Ape picture. So you can go back to Mutant CEO. There we go. There's your Mutant CEO. So maybe there'll be a Mutant NFT that you can apply to Bill, and you can all buy a Mutant Bill sometime soon. That would be cool. Maybe one of you can figure that out, and we can raise some money with Mutant Bills, and there'll be every Mutant Bills floating around everywhere. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, what else did I want to talk about? So I'm going to get to some questions in a minute. I talked about Ethereum. I talked about Solana and Bitcoin. Just to finish on Bitcoin, I think that there's a good chance that we could see 40,000, but again, it's kind of a round-off error to this exponential run-up that the structure of Bitcoin markets is telling our team wants to happen, right? So put another way, structurally, right, we're running out of Bitcoin. And everything that we look at in terms of fundamentals says we're running out of Bitcoin. More and more people want Bitcoin and Ethereum, and therefore the demand is going to outstrip supply. On chain, it looks like things are still pretty quiet, which means in the case of Bitcoin that mining fees are actually very low, which means there's a lot of room for this to go. This is being offset today by quick leverage, right? Meaning people over leveraging themselves quickly, which leads to these pullbacks. Eventually fundamentals will win, as I said. And when the fundamentals win, I don't see a ceiling on Bitcoin in the long term. All right. So don't be afraid of the pullbacks if you're in this for the long term. If you're a day trader, I don't know what to tell you. Day trading Bitcoin and Ethereum is almost impossible. I've never seen anyone effectively do it. Now, there are people who get in and out of altcoins. I think the last couple of weeks has been very profitable for people trading certain altcoins. As I mentioned before, I mentioned Cardano. Wax has done really well. Digibyte's done well, and a few others. So again, I don't hold them long term. I come in and out, or I use them on occasion for sending money if the fees are high. But although I'm starting to look more and more at Lightning now. So that's my take on where we're going with this. So by the way, Paul, I saw your question here. Why do I talk about coins that Abra doesn't necessarily offer? It's not just about, I'm not here to basically tell you what coins just to buy an Abra. I'm also here to basically educate on the broader market. And I do want to list Solana. It's not up to me when we do or don't list a coin. I want all of you to understand what's happening with the evolution of crypto in general, not just here to shill a coin that you should or shouldn't buy or sell or trade. So I want to be very clear about that. Anyway, so we do have folks answering customer specific questions, and somebody else's point, it's not a bot. It's actually real people. Treat them well. They work super hard to answer your questions. I, for one, am very grateful that we have such an awesome support team. Okay, so I talked about Bitcoin. I talked about Bored Apes, NFTs. So let's talk about El Salvador for a moment. So this was interesting, right? So the Bitcoin law went into effect this week. Now think about this. Bitcoin has not yet existed for 5,000 days, right? I think we're not even at 4,500 days yet. Less than 5,000 days after the introduction of the very first trustless cryptocurrency, we have a sovereign government making that cryptocurrency an official currency of their government, sovereign nation, whatever you want to call it. The law was passed back in June. It had a few technical hiccups this week. The Shiva wallet, and I don't know exactly how they were doing it. It had some technical hiccups, but everything seems to be working now. I have a lot of friends down there that have been sending and posting pictures on Twitter. I've been retweeting some of them, basically using Lightning to buy coffee at Starbucks and go to McDonald's, and that's all interesting. I think ultimately what's interesting to me about Bitcoin in El Salvador is that in the short term, it represents a viable savings vehicle that doesn't put them dependent on the US dollar. It's great that they're going to use it for spending money and remittances. And I spent a ton of time in the remittance space. For those of you not clear, remittances generally, when it comes to consumer remittances, refers to migrant workers sending money home. So for countries like Mexico, El Salvador, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Philippines, remittances represent a huge lifeblood. In some cases, representing 20 to 30% of the whole economy, right? And so if you're paying 7, 8, 9, 10% of the remittance to send the money, and the remittances are 30% of the economy, right? That means 3% of the economy could be lost just in money transfer fees going to companies like Western Union, et cetera, et cetera. So getting those fees down means money that could land directly into the economy and be put to work. So that's really interesting. Now, there's a lot of questions about how you're going to affect user behavior because people don't understand new technology, and older people tend to be afraid of new technology. But time tends to solve those problems, right? Out with the old, in with the new, as we say. And I'm super bullish on the Lightning Network as the best competition to traditional remittances I've ever seen, ever. And like I said, I worked on this for years on the ground in these countries. All right. So kudos to everyone working on this. It is not easy. All right. So I am getting some questions. I wanted to talk about our friends at the SEC and what I'm hearing regards to Coinbase. And then I'm going to go back and take some more questions. So keep teeing up the questions. We've got plenty of time. We're going to get to all of them. This is a very U.S. Centric question. We support customers in almost every country in the world. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're in Europe, if you're in Asia, you can open an Abra Earn account, stake your Bitcoin, your dollars, your Ethereum, soon your Cardano, and earn yield on those coins. Okay. And what you're actually doing with Abra is you're opening an account at a trust bank called Prime Trust, right? And so if you have, by the way, somebody asked here if they can fund with a European bank account, and the answer is yes. ABC, if you go to abra.com, there's a back door for using SEPA to actually buy the stablecoin and deposit it into your Abra wallet. Okay, so you can check that out. It's pretty cool. So you can basically just do a normal SEPA transfer into Abra and start earning yield, but you have to do it through abra.com through the little widget you see at the top of the screen. Okay, so in the meantime, we open these accounts through a trust bank, and to my knowledge, there's several companies that offer yield. Abra is not the only company in crypto land that offers yield or interest on Bitcoin, Ethereum, US dollar stablecoins, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, et cetera, et cetera. I think we're the best at it. I think we offer the safest high yield product in the market. I think our team does a phenomenal job of risk management, managing reserves, et cetera, et cetera. That's why I trust my crypto to that product. We designed it for ourselves first on the assumption that if we did right by ourselves, that all of you might want it as well. And I think we were right, given we're managing a lot of money now from zero, right, over the past year or so. So let's talk about this legal issue. And tangentially, it does relate to everyone because US regulators tend to set the tone now for what happens globally, better or worse. Okay, so last week, the CEO of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong, did a tweet storm followed by a blog post from, I think, from their legal counsel that said they were looking to potentially launch a high yield product called Coinbase Lend that would let you earn like 4% on dollars. I don't know why the interest rate would be so low, but that's what they did or were intending to do. And they tried to get kind of a permission from, and I'm using air quotes, from the US securities regulator, right? Keep in mind, cryptocurrencies themselves, Bitcoin, Ethereum, dollars, are not securities. They're either commodities or currencies, depending upon which one you're talking about. And the SEC does not regulate commodities. We have a different branch of government that does that. Anyway, so they went to them and said, are these investment contracts that would be deemed securities? And they couldn't get a straight answer, but they did get the answer that if you launch the product, we will sue you. And basically said that, yes, in effect saying, yes, these are securities. And they did, and Coinbase didn't agree, said, we don't understand why these would be securities. Can you explain to us why? And the answer they got was, no, we can't, but we're going to sue you anyway if you launch the product. Now, I don't really know all the details. I don't think they've published all the details. I'm guessing there's a lot of subpoenas and other things that fly around and a lot of technical legal jargon. But the bottom line is the two companies don't agree. And Coinbase had originally intended to launch the product in October. Now, why am I telling you all of this? Because, well, Abra has effectively a competing product in the market today. Now, our take is twofold. One, you are getting an account at a bank, effectively a trust bank called Prime Trust, when you open an Abra Earn account or an Abra Borrow account for storing your collateral, okay? And you're actually custodying your crypto with Prime Trust when you open that account. We don't say deposits because deposits generally refer to cash. you're actually custodying that crypto. Let's all use the more legal correct phrase here, although we will say deposit on occasion. So then, of course, we are lending that crypto that you're custodying in order to generate the yield, the vast majority of which goes back to you. Now, our very clear take on this is the idea of generating yield for you is not issuing a security of any kind. And it's not even Abra that's opening the account anyway, it's a trust bank. So to my knowledge, we're the only company doing this that way, meaning we're the only company that's effectively opening a trust bank account for you, or that you're opening a trust bank to earn that yield. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not aware of anyone else doing that. So structurally, what Abra is doing is different, to my knowledge, than other companies. And I'm very comfortable with that model. It took us longer than other companies entering the space to do that because it is more complicated to build. I think we did a good job of hiding that complexity from you so that you don't have to see all this stuff going on behind the scenes. Although the terms of service are very, very clear, in my opinion, if you read them, and you should read them. Okay, so that's what I think is going on. We've had no interactions with federal securities regulators on Abra Earn. If we did, I'd tell you. You know, our take is that it's business as usual. Our partners at Prime Trust have been fantastic. They love what we're doing. They're very supportive of the product. Anyway, so I think we've covered that topic. If you have more questions specific to it, I'd be happy to ask. A few of you were asking, and so that's my take on it now. And if as things evolve, I'll give you more take on it. Okay, I've been talking for a bunch of minutes here. Let me get to some questions. They're teed up and going pretty far back into the chat here. So let me pick a few. Let's see, what do we got? All right, so yeah, ABC. As I said, you can open an account and use Abra from Europe. All you have to do is use Abra.com to do a SEPA deposit, and you can deposit anything you want via SEPA, and then you just basically paste. I can actually do a demo for you later, but you paste the wallet from Abra into that checkout process, and you can fund your wallet effectively with SEPA wire from Europe. Okay, let's see some more questions here. Is there any guarantee insurance to cover return of monies deposited in Abra? Anil, no, these are cryptocurrencies. These are not, you're not depositing dollars, you're not depositing anything but crypto in Abra. And so, you know, again, so there's no kind of traditional insurance there. But I actually think in many ways, look, I'm sure the government doesn't like me saying this, but I think in many ways this is safer than a traditional bank account, because banks actually lend money they don't have. And, you know, yeah, so Abra can't lend money it doesn't have. So that's a big difference between working through a trust bank and lending licenses and working through a traditional bank that does fractional reserve banking. So let's see. Gregory asks, what sort of safeguards does Abra Earn utilize against the Bitcoin super spike and liquidation to hedge funds, et cetera, et cetera? So let me unpack the question for everyone, because this is an important question. Effectively, what this says is that if Abra is loaning crypto to a fund, for example, via Prime Trust to generate yield, what happens if the price moves against the borrower so that their margin that they've, or collateral that they've posted, is no longer enough to cover that loan? So generally what happens is that our system will generate what we call a margin call or a collateral call to a borrower, and they have a few hours to either deposit more crypto into that collateral account or liquidate existing collateral to cover the difference. Now, in all the time we've been doing this, we've had several price spikes and we've had several price falls, and we've never had a collateral call not be met by a borrower, right? And the opposite happens as well. Sometimes Abra has to pay collateral back to a counterparty as well. And in both directions, we've never seen a collateral call not be met, Gregory. And that includes these big spikes up and down that we've seen, right? We've seen plus 50+% spikes in both directions. Gregory, I don't store any crypto outside of Abra today, outside of a couple of funds that I'm involved in. Everything that's liquid is in Abra. Casa is a great product if you're technical enough to understand multi-sig and how to use it. I really like the Lop and the folks over there. They're world-class folks. But for me, I prefer Abra. Berg asks, is there any update on New York City? Berg, if you are in New York and you're looking to use Abra Earn, I think we're close. I don't have anything to announce yet, but we're working on a solution for you. And if you send an email to, actually, I can post it into the chat, or somebody can post it into the chat. I think it's trading@abra.com. Actually, just contact support and say you're from New York. Bill mentioned you may have a solution coming up for Abra Earn users in New York, or potential Abra Earn users in New York, and we'll get back to you. But make sure in the meantime that you register with the Abra app, even if it doesn't let you finish the process from New York. This way we have your phone number. Okay, very important, so that when we have this solution, we'll actually proactively contact you anyway. All right. So I don't want to say more on that until we've got it all worked out, but we are working on it. New York's really important to me, not just because there's a lot of users there. I have a family in New York. They can't use Abra. It drives me nuts. So we're going to fix that at some point. Okay. Thanks for the explanation on the NFTs. You're welcome. Happy to do it. Let's see a bunch of other questions here. Let me try to get some interesting ones. Could I create NFTs of my original political cartoons? Mike, if you own the IP, you can create NFTs of anything, as far as I can tell. And there's lots of online tools to do that. I'm trying to figure out the best way in the future for Abra to play in that space. And I'm still working on it. Would love feedback for anything that you all want to see in the NFT world, in the Abra app. But it's something that we are spending a fair amount of time on. Look, I don't know. I don't know the answer. I'll show you my couple of thoughts here. If I bring up the Abra app, I'll bring it up while I'm talking. But you could have, let's say, an NFT section. You could have the ability to connect to third-party sites and automatically move your Ethereum or your Cardano, or maybe in the future your Solana around. I don't know, but it's a super interesting space to me, and it's here to stay. I think there's fantastic overlap. A lot of you use Abra as a wealth management tool, and as a wealth management tool, let me share my screen here. See if I can do that. No, it's not letting me once again. So, a lot of you use Abra as a wealth management tool, which, for crypto, which makes a lot of sense, right? And as part of that, why wouldn't you have, art or other, types of, other types of collectibles in your wealth management solution? So that makes sense to me. It's very early in the space, and I would say no one has really figured out how integration of all of this stuff should work from a wealth management perspective. But let me bring up the app here for a second. Hopefully you can see it. Look at the bottom. We've got trade, we've got earn, we've got borrow. What if there was collectibles or NFTs or art or something like that? And so I don't know. I don't know the answer. I'm not announcing anything. We're spending time on it. We're open to lots of ideas, any ideas actually. So we want to do this right, and so we're not just going to rush into anything. At Abra, we really focus hard on user experience. So yeah, so I'm going to leave the app open. I think we've got some app questions here. Is it safer to stake your Bitcoin and ETH or move to a hardware wallet? So Michelle, that's a tough one because safe is relative, right? If my take is that obviously having the keys offline is always the safest solution, but for most people, having keys offline, which either means paper or a hardware wallet of some kind, is technically a big challenge for most people, right? So my family members, for example, would never put crypto in a hardware wallet or on paper unless I did the work for them, which kind of defeats the purpose. But they would use an app like Abra. So I think there's a spectrum of what people are willing and able to do that's going to evolve over time. But I should say, and this is a really important point. Now we have a lot of people who leave their crypto on Abra, right? We manage, and it's roughly between Abra Earn and Abra Trade and collateral, probably about $1 billion of crypto. But we also have probably 30% of our trades are actually via hardware wallets. What do I mean by that? People connect the hardware wallet to their laptop. They move the money, the crypto, to Abra. They do their trades, and then they move the crypto off of Abra. So they don't actually permanently store crypto on Abra. So now these people are not earning interest, but to them, having the crypto offline is more important than earning interest. And we're obviously perfectly happy to support those users. And they've been very loyal customers for a long time. It's very difficult to know the exact percentage because obviously when the crypto is in the hardware wallets, you don't really know exactly what's going on or where it is, and it's not really trackable. But we're guessing that somewhere around 30, anywhere from 25, let's say 25 to 40% of all trades on Abra are actually happening via hardware wallets, and they don't leave the crypto permanently on Abra or online at all, right? They do the trade and it goes back into the hardware wallet. Okay. Let's see. Could I just, somebody's asking, Alan, welcome back, Alan, is asking if I can discuss the electricity issues regarding Bitcoin. So Alan, I'm not an expert in this topic. I've read a fair amount about it. Nick Carter is really the expert that I look to, and you can go search for Nick's writings online. But there's so much FUD on this, it's insane. Excuse me. The FUD for me is, if you look at, government usage of electricity, just pick your favorite ridiculous industry and the amount of electricity that big industry uses, the military industrial complex globally, the banking system globally, Visa globally, Google, Facebook, Apple, right? How much electricity do you think that Google searches consume globally? And to say that we're gonna, pick on Bitcoin, which actually creates self-sovereign money for the first time, and that's a waste of electricity, doesn't make sense to me. So the whole argument is kind of a red herring. Now, that having been said, the argument's not going away, right? The whole kind of, what is it called, ESG movement is here to stay. So I can complain about it, even though I don't agree with it, but the reality is the argument's not going away. Let me turn up the screen here for a second, because you don't need to see the app while I'm talking. I'm going to turn that off. So the argument is not going away anytime soon, okay? Like it or lump it, right, as we said. But we can make counter arguments to it that make sense. Now, I'm also happy to announce that we're going to have some guests over the next couple of weeks, and we're going to get into this topic. So I'm glad you brought it up, Alan. Not on next week's show. Next week, I think we're having Dan Moorhead from Pantera, and Dan and I are going to get into what we're seeing in the crypto markets as it relates to institutional investors in particular, because we're mostly retail here, but we're getting a lot more and more people using Abra as a wealth management tool, which starts to relate to what family offices are doing. And it's always interesting to see what large successful investors are doing in the crypto space. And Dan as the founder of Pantera and an Abra investor, is going to give us some insights into that. But the following week, I'm happy to announce that we're scheduled to have a special guest on that you all know, Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy, who's going to come on. And one of the things we're going to get into is this electricity issue. He started a mining consortium where they're actually trying to address a lot of the public feedback on this mining issue. So I'm really excited that we're going to have some awesome guests over the next couple of weeks. Dan's coming on, then Michael Saylor, and we're working on some other we're working on scheduling, but we've got some verbal commits from some other guests that we're going to bring on as well. And so it's not just going to be mutant bills that you're going to see. It's going to be a lot of mutant folks that maybe we'll have some mutant Mike Sailors as well. So it's going to be super fun. And we're going to get into this electricity question. I have very strong feelings about it. I think it's a bit of a red herring. But look, like I said, the issue is not going away. So we need to address it head on as a community. Okay. And then Michelle, I'm not sure what you mean, but when you say you worry about the liquidity, Abra, it integrates with very, very large liquidity providers. Abra itself doesn't run an order book. So you have the advantage that Abra does whatever it needs to do to guarantee the liquidity for your positions. So I'm not sure exactly if I'm answering your question or what you even mean by that. I'm struggling to understand Abra's interest rates versus competitors, given the responsible risk management that I've mentioned. What are my thoughts on that? Look, I can't speak to what others are doing in the space. I can only speak to what Abra's doing. And I am extremely comfortable with our risk management processes. I also think that other companies in the space are not giving all of the majority of the yield earned back to the person custodying the crypto, meaning you, the consumer. And so they're keeping more of that yield for their own profits, right? Abra's not doing that. So that's a big part of the reason why. I also think that they don't have as deep experience as we do and the deep relationships that we do in order to generate that yield in the first place. So I think there's a couple of things going on. And like I said, there's a reason why I'm comfortable. Look, the vast majority of my personal wealth is in crypto, and the vast majority of my crypto that's at 100% that's liquid is in Abra. All right, I'm not stupid. There's a reason why I'm willing to do that. Okay, and if I didn't trust it, I wouldn't do it myself. So I'm very comfortable with that model and how we're doing risk management. And keep the questions coming. That's why I do the show. All right. So let's see. Why are there only limited coins in the wallet? Shendu asks. Well, Shendu, on Abra Trade, we support over 100 cryptocurrencies, and you can do real-time trading between any two of them. Right? Pick any two cryptocurrencies. You don't have to go back to dollars like you do on most exchanges. You can literally trade between Ether and Cardano directly, or Digibyte and Ether directly, without having to go back to dollars. Most exchanges don't do that. So that's a lot of trading pairs. On Abra Earn side, we support like 10 coins, like 4 or 5 stable coins, and then Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Lumens, and Cardano's coming very soon. We're finishing the testing now. And so the issue with adding more coins to Abra Earn is being able to generate the yield, right? So if coins are stakeable to generate yield, that helps a little bit, but in some cases there's lockup issues, and we want to give you real-time access to those coins. So if staking the coin is still liquid, meaning we can give you real-time access, we'll be adding more of those tokens over time as the demand grows. But we're covering the coins that represent 95% of interest earning demand today, beyond other fiat currencies. I know some of you would like to be able to stake digital euros, and other stable coins that aren't dollar-based, and we will add those over time. But I think for today, we're covering 90 to 95% of the coins that represent your interest in terms of generating yield. And that having been said, we will continue to add more, especially as proof of stake continues to evolve and gain traction in the marketplace. Do I think 2FA is necessary? Well, we added it to the app, Gregory, so I think it's very necessary. Otherwise, we wouldn't have done it. And the biggest reason why 2FA is necessary is people have, they use the phone all day long. You accidentally leave it open in a store, somebody swipes the phone, and one of the layers of protection is now gone because you didn't lock your phone. So now what happens if I go to the Abra app? Well, I try 5,000 combinations and I'm able to get in, I can withdraw the crypto there. If you have 2FA turned on for withdrawals and have that 2A up on another device, which is what I do, right? So this is, for example, a second device. Oh, you can't see here. This is a second device I use where I have my 2FA turned on. I don't carry it around with me, right? I can prevent somebody who stole my phone from doing a withdrawal. So I strongly encourage you, and I'll show you how to do it. I'm gonna turn back on my screen share here while I'm talking. So I strongly encourage all of you to turn on 2FA in the Abra app. So to turn it on, you have to reinstall. Make sure you have the latest version of the Abra app running. So hopefully, I think you see my screen now, right? So you have to have the latest version of the Abra app running. You go to settings, which is the upper left menu, and you see where it says wallet security, which is the 5th line down. You click that, and you see where it says two-factor authentication. 2FA is short for two-factor authentication. That means that you're going to use something besides your password in order to validate that you are who you say you are. You install a 2FA app like Google Authenticator. I use Authy, but there's several good ones. You install that preferably on a separate device, like a laptop or another phone. And if you don't have a second phone and you want to do that, what I recommend doing is go buy a cheap Android phone. You don't even need to get a SIM card or a SIM plan. Use Wi-Fi to connect to the internet and keep it offline otherwise. And you have a cheap 2FA device that you can put in a safety deposit box, a safe, someplace safe that you don't travel with, so that you can't leave it at the bar, on the counter at the store, or something like that. Okay. So when you click on two-factor authentication for the first time, now I've got it on, I'm going to leave it on. You're going to click turn it on, and then you're going to use the other device to set up the 2FA once you install that Google Authenticator or Authy app or whatever app you choose to use for two-factor authentication. If you go to Abra's support site or our blog site, we have links to articles that explain how to set it up in detail. Okay, so that's 2FA. I'll leave this running for a moment in case I think we have some other questions related to the app here. Let's see. Yes, again, we do have support folks here. If you have a specific question with your own wallets, you can always send an email to support@abra.com. The easiest way to do that is via the app. So if I go back to the app here, you see at the bottom of the screen where it says contact us. The reason that you should do it this way is that there's a menu here that is pre-filled in that says, here's your user ID. It also allows you to choose which topic. So you can see that I'm scrolling on here. You can choose the topic that you want to contact support about, and it will get to the right person faster. You'll get a more coherent, faster response if you contact us that way. Okay. Let's see. I wish Abra would get a Visa card. No comment. Except to say I agree. Loved your interview with Vitalik. I did too. You know, we're overdue for another one. Vitalik's become a bit of a, he's a friend. I've known Vitalik since he was like 17, but that's not really a big deal since he's like 19 now, or actually he's older than that. I think he's like 25. But he's become a bit of a recluse. So we're trying to get a hold of him, but it's been tough lately. We used to talk all the time, but these days he's become a bit of a hermit. Let's see what other questions. It's really interesting. So I don't have a lot of thoughts on Hex. It's not something that I actively track. Sorry, nothing to add there. Let's see what else. Ape NFT is also partnered with Sotheby's. Yep. I mentioned that Abra Earn would be available for Cardano. Yeah, so Krista, I did say it would be available, and it will be. We had some delays with the testing. No issues other than it just took a little longer than planned. So it is, I promise you it's coming. If you move your Cardano over to Abra, you'll be good to go immediately when it launches, and we'll send out an email to everyone the moment it's available. But it will happen very, very soon, I promise you. If you have any support tickets that are open and you're not getting a response, what I suggest is send an email to support@abra.com and include the ticket number in there. It very rarely happens. We have an average response time of like during the week of like less than 15 minutes, literally less than 15 minutes. But look, every once in a while it happens. And if this, the best thing to do, if you haven't gotten a response in that 24 hours, is send it, or even a few hours for that matter, it's okay to send a follow-up email. Not a problem at all. All right. So lots more questions. You guys always have the best questions. We didn't do a country check today, but I can tell from some of the names that we've got really interesting group of folks here. Alan is asking if I saw the commercial with Tom Brady, his wife, and actually, and also with Steph Curry. Yeah, I did see it. Kudos to Sam and our friends at FTX. They're spending a lot of money on this stuff right now, and it's great for the space. It's also fun. You know, Abra's taking a different approach. I'll have some announcements next week on some stuff, but you know, I did see. I actually liked it a lot. I thought it was really clever. I'm certainly not a marketing expert, but I thought it was clever, and I think anything that can leverage known entities to create more awareness and make our space maybe a little bit more accessible and a little more fun is certainly welcome to me. So yeah, so I hope that even Abra at some point can add into that whole kind of you know, media dialogue around you know, promotions and you know, kitschy stuff like the Tom Brady video. So James asked a good question. What happens if my 2A device is lost or stolen? So James, first of all, the whole point of 2FA is that you're doing it on a device that you're not carrying around, hopefully, right? But what I do is I use a service that encrypts my 2FA codes online, like Authy. This way, if I have to get another device, I can immediately install the 2FA on a new device, reset all those 2FA codes so that the old one doesn't work anymore, okay? But you're better off putting the 2FA on a, sorry, let me turn this screen share off. Sorry about that. But you're better off using the 2FA on a device that you don't carry around, if you can, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. All right, I'll take one more question. Losing my voice a little bit today. Is Abra going to launch a desktop web interface? So Victor, yes, we are. It's hard just because of the way the mobile device works. That's not an excuse. I want it, the team wants it. We will get to it eventually. And I hope sooner rather than later. Yeah. Michelle says, I'll buy a Mutant Bill NFT. Yeah, I'm sure it's probably be more interesting to look at than the CEO Bill NFT. But maybe my mom will buy the other one. Who knows? All right, so that's the little counterproductive. So with that, we'll end it there. Great show. Thanks for the questions. It's really energizing for me. I feed off of the questions, so I love it when you guys have interesting stuff to talk about. Tell your friends to come. Let's make it a little bit more social, and you know, get lots more people asking questions in real time. Create a little interesting dialogue. We're actually going to deploy some tools where we would love to bring people from the audience into the video in real time. So get more of your friends on. Obviously, people can watch the feed afterwards if you don't have time in real time. But we're really going to focus on production quality here over the next few weeks. And we've come a long way, obviously, even with my setup here. The lighting is good, the audio is good. Yeah, so we actually have a couple of announcements next week, which I'm going to talk about on next week's show. And so I'm really excited about that. So stay tuned early next week for that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to pulling some of you even more into the show, maybe with some live audio or video, whatever you're comfortable with, and letting you ask your questions even live, as opposed to just having me or our producers read the questions. Yeah, so with that, as always, have a happy, safe, healthy weekend. Not a political show. Please get vaccinated. Enough of the bullshit. If you know, I don't no need to respond. It's not a political show. The science is the science. Get vaccinated, please. And let's get back to work. All right. In the meantime, stay happy, safe, and healthy. Hug your family this weekend. I think a lot of people need it right now. It's tough. And yeah, I appreciate all the gratitude for what we do, but that's why we're here. And thanks again to the Abra support team. You guys rock. All right. Have a great weekend, everyone. Peace out. See you soon.